A shadow moves through the crowded room, his presence like a low hum that vibrates beneath the chatter. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, scan the space, not with desperation but with a quiet certainty that makes heads turn. The clink of glasses, the soft rustle of silk dresses, the laughter that spikes and fades, it all seems to orbit him, as if he's the center of some unspoken gravity. He doesn't shout for attention, doesn't need to. Yet, every woman in the room feels the pull, a magnetic tug that defies logic. He's not charming in the usual way, his words are sparse, his smile rare. There's a coldness to him, a calculated edge, like a blade sheathed but ready. And still, they're drawn to him, moths to a flame that doesn't flicker. Why? What is it about this man who seems to care so little that makes hearts race and pulses quicken? The answer lies in a name that's whispered through history, a name synonymous with power, cunning, and control: Machiavelli. The room pulses with energy, a high-end gala where the wealthy mingle, their egos clashing like champagne flutes. He stands near a marble pillar, his posture relaxed but deliberate, like a predator at rest. A woman in a crimson dress approaches, her confidence a practiced art. She tosses her hair, her lips parting in a smile meant to disarm. He meets her gaze, unflinching, his expression unreadable. Her words come fast, witty, flirtatious, a performance honed over years. But he doesn't mirror her enthusiasm. Instead, he responds with a single, measured sentence, his voice low, almost a whisper. Her smile falters just for a moment before she doubles down, leaning closer, her eyes searching his for a crack in the armor. There is none. He's already 3 steps ahead, orchestrating the moment without her realizing it. She's not just talking to him, she's caught in his web, and she doesn't even know it. This isn't a love story. It's not about romance or fairy tale endings. It's about power, the kind that doesn't need to be loud or ostentatious. It's about a man who understands the human heart, not through warmth, but through strategy. Niccolo Machiavelli, the 16th century philosopher, didn't write about love or attraction in the way we know it today, but his teachings on power, manipulation, and human nature cut straight to the core of why this man in the room holds such sway. His cruelty, or what appears as cruelty, isn't born of malice. It's a calculated choice, a tactic rooted in the principles Machiavelli laid bare in The Prince, a playbook for commanding respect, loyalty, and yes, even desire, without ever begging for it. The women circling him aren't drawn to kindness or vulnerability. They are drawn to the enigma, the challenge, the man who seems untouchable yet utterly in control. Let's peel back the layers. The man in the room isn't a caricature of cruelty. He doesn't raise his voice or belittle others to feel powerful. His cruelty is subtler, more devastating. It's in the way he withholds approval, making others chase it. It's in the silence he wields like a weapon, letting it stretch just long enough to unsettle. He knows something most men don't. Desire isn't sparked by being agreeable. It's sparked by tension, by the push and pull of power dynamics that keep people guessing. Machiavelli taught that to rule, one must be feared and loved. But if you can only have one, choose fear. In the dance of attraction, this man chooses the same. He's not cruel for the sake of pain, he's cruel because it works. The woman in the crimson dress is still talking, her words now tinged with a hint of nervousness. She's used to men fawning, bending to her charm. But this man doesn't bend. He listens, his head tilted slightly, as if weighing her worth. When he finally speaks, it's not to flatter or reassure. His words are sharp, almost cutting, but wrapped in a velvet tone that makes them land softly. She laughs, but it's not her usual laugh. It's tighter, laced with something like uncertainty. She's hooked, not because he's kind, but because he's a puzzle she can't solve. And humans, especially women in this context, are wired to crave the chase, the challenge of unlocking what's just out of reach. This is where Machiavelli's genius comes into play. He understood that power isn't just about strength, it's about perception. The man in the room doesn't need to be the richest or the most handsome. He just needs to be the one who controls the narrative. He's mastered the art of scarcity, of giving just enough to keep others wanting more. It's not about being mean, it's about being deliberate. Every word, every glance, every pause is a move in a game most people don't even realize they're playing. And women, despite what society tells us, aren't immune to this. They're drawn to the man who seems to see through them, who doesn't need their validation, who challenges their sense of self without ever raising his voice. Let's shift to the psychology behind this. Attraction isn't a straight line, it's a labyrinth built on instinct, emotion, and unspoken cues. Women, like men, are drawn to strength, but not just physical strength. Emotional strength, mental sharpness, the ability to command a room without trying, these are the traits that spark desire. Evolutionary psychology tells us that humans are wired to seek partners who signal dominance, resourcefulness, and security. But in the modern world, dominance isn't about brute force. It's about control over oneself, over situations, over the emotions of others. The man in the room knows this. He's not yelling or posturing. He's calm, deliberate, and utterly in command of his own presence. That's what makes him magnetic. Machiavelli's philosophy aligns with this instinct. In The Prince, he wrote that a ruler must be a lion and a fox, bold when needed, cunning always. The man in the room is both. His boldness shows in his refusal to pander, his cunning in how he manipulates the emotional currents around him. He doesn't chase, he positions himself as the prize, and that's the secret women can't resist. It's not about cruelty for cruelty's sake. It's about the confidence to stand apart, to set the terms of engagement, to make others come to you. The woman in the crimson dress doesn't want a man who agrees with her every word she wants, the one who makes her question herself, who stirs something primal and unspoken. Now, let's talk tactics. The man in the room isn't improvising. He's following a playbook, whether he knows it or not, that echoes Machiavelli's strategies. First, there's the principle of scarcity. He doesn't give too much away, not his attention, not his approval, not his emotions. This creates a vacuum, a space that others feel compelled to fill. When he speaks to the woman in the crimson dress, he doesn't shower her with compliments. He offers one, maybe two, but they're precise, almost surgical, designed to linger in her mind. You carry yourself like you've never lost a battle, he might say. His tone neutral, but his eyes locked on hers. It's not flattery, it's a challenge, a statement that demands she prove it. Then there's the art of controlled unpredictability. Machiavelli advised rulers to keep their subjects off balance, never fully certain of what's coming next. The man in the room does this effortlessly. One moment, he's engaged, his gaze intense, his words drawing her in. The next, he's distant, his attention drifting to someone else in the room. Not out of rudeness, but as a signal. His focus is a privilege, not a guarantee. This push-pull dynamic creates an emotional roller coaster, and the human brain is wired to crave resolution. She wants to win him back, to regain that fleeting moment of connection. It's not manipulation for manipulation's sake, it's a dance, and he's leading. Let's dig deeper into the psychology of attraction. Women, like all humans, respond to status. But status isn't just about money or fame. It's about how you carry yourself, how you navigate the world. The man in the room exudes status not because of his suit or his watch, but because of his unshakable self-possession. He doesn't need to prove himself, and that's the ultimate power move. In a world where everyone's shouting for attention, his restraint is deafening. He's the one who doesn't need to try, and that's what makes him irresistible. Machiavelli would approve. He wrote that a leader must appear greater than he is, and this man has mastered the art of appearance. But there's a darker edge to this. The man's cruelty, or what we perceive as cruelty, isn't about inflicting pain. It's about withholding what others crave: validation, certainty, comfort. He knows that giving too much too soon kills desire. He's not cruel because he hates women, he's cruel because he understands them. He knows that attraction thrives on tension, on the interplay of power and vulnerability. When he walks away from the woman in the crimson dress, mid-conversation, to speak to someone else, it's not to hurt her, it's to make her want him more. And it works. She watches him, her eyes narrowing, her mind racing, to figure out what she did wrong, what she can do to pull him back. She's not angry, she's intrigued. This dynamic isn't new. Machiavelli's ideas were born in the cutthroat world of Renaissance politics, but they applied just as much to the social games we play today. He taught that power comes from understanding human nature, its desires, its fears, its weaknesses. The man in the room has internalized this. He knows that people, women included, are drawn to those who seem above the fray, who don't need approval, who set the rules rather than follow them. His cruelty is an illusion, a carefully crafted facade that hides a deeper truth. He's not cruel at all. He's strategic. He's playing a game most people don't even see, and he's winning. Let's explore the social tactics at play. The man doesn't just dominate one-on-one interactions. He commands the room. Watch how he moves through the crowd. He doesn't linger too long with any one person, doesn't let himself get pinned down. He's always in motion, always just out of reach. This creates a ripple effect. People notice, they whisper, they wonder who he is, what he's about. His presence becomes a story, a narrative that others fill in with their own assumptions. Machiavelli called this the art of keeping the multitude in suspense. By being elusive, the man amplifies his allure. He's not just a person, he's a myth in the making. The woman in the crimson dress isn't the only one watching him now. Others have noticed, their glances darting toward him, their conversations shifting to include him. He's not loud or flashy, but he's the focal point, the axis around which the room turns. This is another Machiavellian principle: control the frame. By setting the tone of the interaction, by dictating the emotional temperature, he shapes how others perceive him. He doesn't react to the room reacts to him. And that's what makes women and people in general so drawn to him. He's not chasing their approval, he's creating a world where they chase his. Let's talk about emotional domination. This isn't about bullying or coercion. It's about understanding the emotional currents that drive human behavior and steering them to your advantage. The man in the room knows how to read people, not just their words, but their body language, their hesitations, the flicker of doubt in their eyes. When he speaks to the woman in the crimson dress, he's not just listening to her words, he's watching her hands, the way they twist the stem of her glass when she's nervous. He's noting the slight tilt of her head when she's trying to impress him. He's reading her like a book, and he's writing the next chapter. Machiavelli wrote that a leader must know when to be a lion and when to be a fox. The man in the room is a master of both. He's a lion when he needs to assert dominance, like when he cuts through someone's small talk with a direct, almost brutal observation. But he's a fox when he needs to charm, slipping in a subtle compliment that feels like a reward because it's so rare. This balance is what keeps people off guard, what makes them want to please him. He's not predictable, and that unpredictability is his greatest weapon. Women don't fall for him because he's nice, they fall for him because he's a challenge, a puzzle they can't quite solve. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Is this manipulation? Is it ethical? Machiavelli didn't care about ethics, he cared about results. The man in the room operates in the same gray area. He's not lying or deceiving, not in the traditional sense. He's simply playing the game of human nature better than most. He understands that attraction isn't about being good or bad, it's about being effective. He's not cruel because he wants to hurt people. He's cruel because it's what works. It's what cuts through the noise of a world where everyone's trying to be liked. By refusing to play that game, by setting his own rules, he becomes the one others want to follow. Let's circle back to the woman in the crimson dress. She's still in his orbit, but now she's not alone. Another woman, younger, in a sleek black gown, has joined the conversation. She's bolder, more direct, her laughter louder. The man doesn't shift his demeanor. He treats her the same way, calm, measured, with that same enigmatic edge. The two women are now competing, not overtly, but in the subtle ways women do. A sharper quip, a more confident tilt of the chin. He doesn't encourage it, doesn't acknowledge it, but he knows it's happening. He's orchestrated it without saying a word. This is Machiavelli's principle of divide and conquer, applied not to armies but to emotions. By creating a sense of competition, he amplifies his own value. This isn't about misogyny or exploiting women. It's about understanding human nature, male and female, and using that knowledge to navigate the world. The man in the room isn't targeting women specifically. He simply mastered the art of influence, and women, like men, respond to it. The principles Machiavelli laid out centuries ago aren't gendered, they're universal. Power, control, and perception shape every human interaction, whether it's in a boardroom, a battlefield, or a crowded gala. The man in the room just happens to wield them with surgical precision. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Why does this matter? Why are we so fascinated by a man who seems cruel yet commands such attraction? Because he represents something primal, something we all secretly crave, the ability to control our own destiny. In a world where we're bombarded with noise, social media, expectations, the pressure to be liked, this man stands apart. He's not swayed by the crowd. He's not desperate for approval. He's the embodiment of Machiavelli's ideal, a leader who shapes the world around him, not the other way around. And that's what makes him so compelling, so magnetic, so impossible to ignore. As the night wears on, the gala reaches its peak. The music swells, the lights dim, and the man in the room is still the center of gravity. The woman in the crimson dress hasn't given up. She's back, her approach softer now, more thoughtful. She's learned something about him, or at least she thinks she has. She asks a question, something personal, probing. He answers, but not fully just enough to keep her engaged, to keep the mystery alive. She's not frustrated, she's captivated, and that's the final piece of the puzzle. The man's power doesn't come from cruelty alone. It comes from understanding that desire is a game of patience, of strategy, of never giving too much too soon. Machiavelli's teachings aren't just for princes or politicians. They're for anyone who wants to understand the currents that drive human behavior. The man in the room is a living example of this. He's not a hero or a villain, he's a strategist, navigating the world with a clarity most of us lack. His cruelty, if you can call it that, is just a tool, one of many in his arsenal. He's not out to hurt anyone, he's out to win. And in the game of attraction, of power, of influence, he's playing at a level most of us can only aspire to. The gala is winding down now, the crowd thinning, the energy softening. The man in the room is still there, his presence undiminished. The woman in the crimson dress lingers nearby, her eyes still on him, her mind still racing. She's not sure if she's won or lost, but she knows one thing: she's not ready to walk away. And that's the power of Machiavelli's principles, embodied in the man who seems cruel but commands desire like no one else. He's not just a man, he's a force, a living lesson in power, perception, and the art of being untouchable. This story, this man, this philosophy is not about cruelty for cruelty's sake. It's about understanding the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. It's about recognizing that power, in all its forms, is what shapes human connections. The man in the room isn't a monster, he's a mirror, reflecting the truths Machiavelli laid bare centuries ago. And whether we admit it or not, we're all drawn to that reflection, to the allure of someone who knows exactly who they are and what they want. So, what's the takeaway? It's not about becoming cruel or manipulative. It's about embracing the clarity that comes with understanding human nature. It's about learning to navigate the world with intention, with strategy, with the kind of confidence that doesn't need to shout. The man in the room isn't special because he's cruel, he's special because he's deliberate. He's mastered the art of influence, and in doing so, he's unlocked the secret to attraction, to power, to leaving a mark on the world. If this story, this exploration of Machiavelli's principles has sparked something in you, if it's made you question how you move through the world, how you command attention, how you wield power, then don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button, like this video. Drop a comment with your thoughts, tell me what you think about this man, this philosophy, this game of power and attraction. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's ready to step up and take control of their own narrative. Because this isn't just a story about one man in a room. It's a story about you, about what you're capable of when you understand the rules of the game. Let's keep this conversation going. I'll see you in the next one.